On this episode of Ripped from the Textbooks, we cover two murder cases that rock Manila, leaving their victims in pieces. I'm Aaron,
And I'm Jess.
and today we're going to be covering the Chop Chop Lady cases.
This, yeah.
I gotta say, we kind of we went 0 to 100 real quick,
We dropped
Previous-
the ball on the second episode.
Yeah, we went from, teleportation to, yes, brutal murders.
Rural murders. Yep. I
Uh,
know.
but honestly,
Like,
it cases like these are pretty rare enough to the point where well, to this day it is still being talked about.
I mean, it's famous, to say the least. I mean, infamous.
Very, very
Oh,
infamous.
Yep.
And of course, with that, let's head into this very, very gruesome case. It was early morning of May 28, 1967, when the sweltering heat of the summer season began to take hold on the residents of Manila. But a far more insidious crime just laid beneath the surface of the passing cars and pedestrians bearing the summer heat. Along Malabon Street in Santa Cruz, Manila, a pair of women's legs were found wrapped up in newspaper dated May 14 inside a garbage can by a garbage collector who immediately contacted the authorities. It had been cleanly cut into 4 pieces, with the collector even describing the legs as being cold, as if it had been placed inside a freezer, and noting the pedicured toes as belonging to someone that was well-to-do. A day later, on May 29, an unidentified headless and legless torso was found along EDSA near Guadalupe Bridge, wrapped in newspaper dated May 23, baffling police even more at both the macabre nature and the severe state the body was left in. It was until later that the body was identified as Lucilia Lalu, whose fingerprint matched that with the body. Now, Lucilia Lalu was as ordinary a person as anyone, having left her hometown of Candaba, Pampanga, for greener pastures in Manila, as many others did before her. There, she managed to find a job as a waitress at a small-time night spot. During this time, she had met Anyona? Yes, Anyona Vera, a patrolman who was already married, but still decided to have an affair that resulted in a son. But her hard work paid off when she eventually bought and owned the Pagoda Soda Lounge in Rizal Avenue, a cocktail lounge and restaurant in one. She found modest success in it as well, and in time would set up a second business, a parlor shop named Lucy's Beauty House in Mayhalig Street, Santa Cruz. But with success and money, it bred a more indulgent part of her lifestyle. As investigation furthered, the sordid side of Lucilia's life came to light, as many of the suspects that were questioned were her various lovers, 2 of which were considered prime suspects, one of them being a 19-year-old who worked as a waiter at the Pagoda. But he claimed to have been drinking with his friends the night Lucilia disappeared, as well as having no motive to kill her, as she was also his provider, having set up an apartment in Cubao for him that was said to be their love nest. The second was her common-law husband, Añano, who was known for his fits of rage and jealousy, even having an incident of firing his service pistol 3 times in both the Pagoda and Lucy's beauty parlor the month before she disappeared. And finally, there came a third suspect, a dentistry student named Jose Luis Santiano, a son of a retired colonel, and had been boarding in the rooms of the parlor, confessing in a handwritten note on June 15 that he had a mental blackout but remembers strangling Lucilia, who he claimed attempted to seduce him, and when he refused, threatened to create a scandal, causing him to lash out and strangle her, dismembered her body, and disposed of it around various parts of the city via commuting, even claiming he had disposed of her head in Diliman, Quezon City, but later recanted that statement, claiming that he was an unwilling witness to the murder, and in fact, 3 men had committed the murder while a 4th held him hostage with a gun. He was eventually released with no new suspect or leads. The case eventually went cold. It wasn't until 2005 when an apparent new suspect came to light. George Hodel, a successful physician who fled from Los Angeles to Manila to escape suspicion of the Black Dahlia murder, a case that was happening at the time. George Hodel Sr. did fit the description of the police, who claimed the suspect had deep medical expertise in cutting up the body, as well as the time frame of the murder being around the same time George was in Manila. Even though many accepted this as a possibility, the case remains open.
Oh yeah, Jesus, that was heavy, man. Oh my God.
So apparently, this is most likely a case of, some very lover's quarrel gone horribly wrong.
Yeah, like it's very unfortunate what had happened, but like, yeah, it is a possibility that maybe that kind of lifestyle,
Yeah, she's
eventually led to her death.
she's having quite a lot of fun from the looks of it.
Yeah, but
it is quite weird. It is quite strange that the I guess the killer was just happened to have newspapers around.
True.
And it's quite it's quite peculiar that the newspaper had, I guess the newspaper is sort of related to the murder because of what day it was.
Was keeping the parts, and
Yeah,
I think that's way more messed up.
For
like,
for a second there, I thought maybe it's like a calling card, like like it's wrapped in newspaper. But from the looks of it, I think it's just they happen to have newspapers in hand.
Yeah, but like,
and they just wrapped it.
I can get why it was so popular at the time. Like, Jesus, it's like there's nothing like this at the time, right? Like,
definitely. I think.
definitely.
I mean, unlike say other countries such as the United States, we rarely have like gruesome murders like these. We don't even we don't even have like serial killers, at least known serial killers.
There's probably one like walking the streets, but never got caught.
Yeah, you can tell that. I don't know, like you can tell that. Well, the police were kind of, I wouldn't say incompetent, but they just didn't know how to handle this type of, gruesome murder, I guess.
True. Like, I don't any of us were prepared for it. Like Jesus, when do you ever get like a woman's body parts getting scattered around?
Yeah, but but apparently their investigation, I think for the most part, I think this is like the best you can get. From the looks of it, it's like we have a list of suspects, but we have no. But I think the missing piece, but we don't have the missing piece that would like closely lock this entire case down.
Yeah,
it's too bad.
I think the more messed up part is like they never found her entire body. It's like those were the only things that were ever found.
I mean, they never found the head. They never found.
Yeah,
the rest of the other
Yeah,
stuff. It's like
yeah,
that's kind of disturbing.
I know, right? Like, oh,
And the fact that it's come to the point where the Black Dahlia murders become connected to this case, that's quite
it's kind of a
interesting to be
stretch.
quite honest. Yeah, it is
Yeah,
quite a stretch. Unless unless George Hodel just somehow, it's like, oh, I can't satiate my thirst for killing.
thirst for
So
killing.
I was gonna go
Actually,
to
if
the
you read up,
best place to
yeah,
murder and not get caught.
but like if you read more about George Hodel, this guy is like, oh, no wonder it's like his son hates him. He's a piece of shit. If you guys want to look him up, you should. It's like, ugh.
Yeah.
So there's a viable, like, yeah, maybe it for me personally. I think, yeah, maybe he did it. You know,
I wouldn't be surprised, to be quite honest. But like maybe he just somehow met the victim and thought
right?
that she would be a fitting victim from the looks of
True.
it. But if if they did, I think you'd think one of the people that they investigate, one of the people that they asked around, you'd think they would mention this guy, but you know,
Yeah, true, probably. But it's like the best thing you can get out of it. Like, oh, the best of a bad, and maybe it's not.
oh,
But
sorry, you were breaking up for a second there. A best of a what?
oh, sorry. I think for me, it's like the best of a bad situation. Like, it's this is the most like the one that makes more sense. So I guess a way to cope with it is like you accept it.
And with that, let's proceed to the second case of the Chop Chop Lady murders. Now, this one is a very sensational case that was turned into two movies that came out no more than a year after the incident. The story begins at the day of September 25, 1993, when a man named Demetrio Ravelo walked into the National Bureau of Investigation, confessing to participating in the disposable in the disposal
Disposal.
in the disposal of his boss's lover, Elsa Castillo. His boss, an American businessman named Stephen Mark Weishunt? Yes,
Yes.
Stephen Mark Weishunt was a co-worker of Elsa when she worked as an assistant personal manager at Apex Motor Corporation. Rumors of an affair between the two swirled around the office despite both being married, with Elsa even resigning from her position in the company in order to squash the rumors. But the rumors rung true as the two continued to have an affair several months later. But it was in the day of September 24 when Demetrio Ravelo became an unwilling accomplice to Elsa's murder. He had picked her up the day before from her parents' home in Manila and driven back to Stephen's condominium. After running more errands, he was sent home and asked to return the next day as usual. But when the next day came, he was asked by Stephen to pick up black garbage bags. Upon returning to the condo, Stephen had a breakdown and confessed that Elsa had died. Having died from an apparent bangungot the night before, bangungot being commonly known as the sudden death syndrome. He needed help disposing of her body. But when Demetrio reasoned that Elsa's body can be examined and Stephen can't be blamed for her death, he said that he had already chopped up her body. Demetrio, tested for his loyalty by his employer and out of fear, later helped Stephen stuff the body parts into the garbage bags and subsequently stuffed them into luggages and drove around, disposing of each one. Disposing the bags in places such as Santa Rosa, Laguna, and Silang, Cavite, even driving down to Bataan, where they discarded many of Elsa's belongings along the highways. The next day, the two men returned to Manila, and when Demetrio returned home to his family, confessed to his wife, who urged him to report to the authorities. They were unbelieving of him at first. Only when they sent out agents to the place where he claimed they disposed of the body, only to have it already be discovered by a group of tricycle drivers and was already forming a crowd. The rest of Demetrio's statement was later corroborated when they found more evidence of Elsa's belongings, and they were able to arrest and convict Stephen Weishunt of the murder of Elsa Castillo. But Stephen defended himself, even claiming the blood that was found in his condo were from the period stains left by his sister, and insisting that Elsa had died from the sudden death syndrome, or bangungot. But upon further autopsy, it was found that Elsa had died from a fatal stab wound. Oh, rather, she had died from multiple fatal stab wounds on the chest. A possible motive for the murder was the reconciliation between Elsa and her estranged husband, Fred, whom she had spoken over the phone days before her murder. The case was a sensational hit for the media in the year after the murder and subsequent trial, when two movies the preceding year, called Chop Chop Lady, the Elisa Castillo story, that starred Lorna Talentino, and the Elsa Castillo story starring Chris Aquino, released in 1994. Both having conflicting portrayals of the victim, but ultimately, she was presented as a tragic victim of circumstances. Stephen was found guilty of the murder and sentenced to life imprisonment before being deported to serve the rest of his sentence in California, leaving the country on February 23, 2013. His sentence was later commuted for good behavior. He has since been blacklisted from the Philippines. In the aftermath, the case of the Chop Chop Lady became stuff of urban legends, warning promiscuous women the consequences of having sordid affairs, or even girls who came home too late in the evening, solidifying the impact both cases have had in this country. It's quite telling that we had two, not one, but two movies about a gruesome murder.
I know, right?
One
It's
even
so weird, like
starring Chris Aquino, a very popular, uh,
actress here.
very
Yeah, but
popular
like
actress here.
I think the bizarre part is like it literally in 1994, like the year after, like news of it broke out. Like Jesus.
Like,
So
oh, I guess Philippine Hollywood does not rest. Nothing too. There's no such thing as too soon from the looks of it.
sure, sure. I think it just showcases like how like these things are. Like it captures the public interest so much. Like it became this big. Like it had two movies. You know.
It considering that an affair was involved, right?
Mm,
That's the kind of stuff that I guess the Philippine public loves to, the kind of story that the Philippine public, you know, just craves. I mean,
true.
have you seen current TV dramas lately? I mean, even back
Ah,
then in the 2000s, we've had like these storylines where, ex woman was cheating on her husband or something, or ex woman was cheating on her on her boyfriend, or vice versa.
yeah. It
Boyfriend
turns
was
out
cheating
like
on a girl, on his girl
right,
rather. Lol.
the protagonist's bully turns out to be her sister or some shit.
It's like,
Stuff like that.
man. So I think really that's kind of why we've had why this particular case was kind of had that spotlight to it.
Mm, I
It's
guess so.
kind of
Like
weird.
yeah, it's like it's the stuff of like when you hear about these kinds of cases, it's like this is the shit you see on TV,
Definitely, definitely.
right? 'Cause
Chopping the
I
body
guess
up
that's a
to
factor.
you know trash the evidence,
Yeah.
only to find out
Like,
probably the woman was alive all along.
yeah. But
It
I
was
think
like,
the more,
tune in next week.
Mhm. But like I think the more intense aftermath, it suddenly became like those like wives' tales that they tell people, like to us kids, like they tell us not to do certain things because
Definitely,
this,
definitely.
and the chop chop lady eventually became that. It warned women like, oh no, this is the consequences of affairs.
Yeah, definitely a very outdated. At least to me, it's a very outdated notion.
It's that. It's like it's more of like it's just sad it happened. Like
Definitely. I mean, I don't know. Like bango, like it's so strange too. Like you know, like the woman died of so-called bangungot, and his first instinct was to chop up the body.
Yeah,
It's like,
like if I
that's real
was
sus.
Demetrio, like if I was Demetrio, I'm like, oh,
That's sus. It's like, oh, she died of a heart attack. Oh, she died of a heart attack. Guess I'm gonna chop up the body to
yeah.
get rid of the evidence. Like, what? If among what really happened, you would call the hospital. What the fuck? That's so
And I'm
strange.
like,
This
if I
is,
was,
it's
but I
sus.
don't, yeah, but I don't blame like Demetrio for like following along because like,
Yeah,
oh no,
it's his boss, right? It's his boss.
he's probably he's probably gonna kill me.
Yeah, he's probably yeah, that too. He's probably gonna stab him and shit.
Yeah, like he did it.
But he came through in the end. Demetrio came through in the end and admitted, the murder.
Yeah, that takes balls, like to rat out your boss. But like,
But I guess the
I
guilt,
guess maybe
the guilt. That's the guilt overrode the the fear.
true. And he became an accomplice instantly when he agreed to help dispose of it. So yeah,
Unwilling at that though.
unwilling,
Gotta give him
unwilling.
credit.
Yeah, I think
He was
true,
unwilling.
true. But like, well, I think the saddest part about all of this is like in both cases, like I got away with it essentially.
In excuse me, what?
If you think about it, like in both cases, like the guy got away with it essentially.
Yeah. Though honestly, I thought that that Stephen Wiseman was the murderer.
Mm-hmm. Stephen Wyson.
Yeah, it wasn't Wisehunt rather. Yeah, Stephen Wisehunt was the murderer, right? Though
Yeah, he was.
yeah,
But I think his sentence got commuted, so he got basically like
he
was
got
free.
scot. Yeah, he was got scot free. That's a disappointing. That just proves that justice is spotty here.
Yeah,
Rather, justice is spotty in general.
it's like
It's like you
yeah,
murdered and chopped
an
someone,
innocent
and you got
an innocent woman.
and you're sent free for good behavior. What the hell?
Yeah, it's messed up. You know, like come on.
Yeah, that just proves that apparently you can randomly kill someone and probably get away with it in the Philippines.
True, and just thinking about it just makes me sad,
Definitely, definitely.
man. Yeah.
And with that ends the latest episode of Rip from the Textbooks.
Wait.
We hope to see you for the next one, and thanks for watching.